Hello everyone, welcome back to Hone Your Marks YouTube channel. I am your host teacher Lambisia Valerie. I'm glad that you were able to join us once more, and in the previous lesson I had just introduced essay writing. Today we pick up from where we left. If you are keen enough, that was last year. We had looked at reading and understanding the question before attempting the essay. In that lesson we said that you must read the question entirely, because if you don't, you might miss out on some key areas that the question wants you to address or put stress on. Secondly, we say that you must mark your subject. What is your essay about? Who is your essay about? Thirdly, define the connections. There must be connections in your essay. Establish those connections. Are they connections of comparison, or is it the usual cause-effect relationship? Then establish the moral sense. And we finalized everything by saying that paper 3 is all about morality. If you contravene morality while writing your essay, you know what will happen to you. -4 marks. If you have a problem understanding any of the 4 areas I have mentioned, please feel free to go back to the lesson and adjust accordingly. So today I want us to embark on writing the introduction. From last year's marking, that is 2025, there were few adjustments that were drawn to the introduction. And I mentioned them briefly during one of my highlights. And I said that the introduction is either 2 marks or 0. There's no fair. There's no one. Your introduction is either perfect or not perfect at all. Your introduction is right or wrong. There's no middle ground. In the introduction, focus on demonstrating that you have understood the question. Demonstrate that you have understood the question. That is what you should focus on. In paper 3 essay writing, essays based on set books, your introduction does not merely introduce your essay. Your introduction demonstrates that you have understood the question, that you know what your assignment is. So while you are doing that, to demonstrate that you have understood the question is very, very easy. What you need? A paraphrase. You will never go wrong with a paraphrase. Paraphrase means in your own words. To mean, at no point should you repeat the key words from the question. Look at the question sample that I have up there. Tougher times await third world countries in 50 years. Write an essay referring to Montano's revelation when he travels into the future. We have tougher times. These are some of the vocabulary I will not expect any candidate to repeat. You must go around them and tell us, what do you understand by tougher times? Third world countries, you must be able to tell us that you know what third world countries are. Then in 50 years, you can find a way of bringing it out without necessarily lifting it the way it is. So repeating the question is not good when you are writing an introduction. That is an imperfect introduction. We've said an introduction is either perfect or imperfect. 2 marks or 0. There's no middle ground. So a paraphrase is the safest way to do it. Earlier on, 2024, 2023, backwards, we have been accepting sampling of points. Last year, we accepted sampling of points. Yes, you sample 1 point to prove that you know exactly what you are expected to do in that essay. That was fine. But a small complication arose when this sampling went too far into the point. If you go deep into the point in the introduction while sampling that point, then it was what let some of the candidates down. It let you down big time. So to avoid such cases, unless you master it well, perfectly, just do a paraphrase. Do it in your own words. What do you understand by the key terms that I have underlined? And while you are doing it in your own words, it is not wrong for you to rearrange the order. So that here, our subject is tougher times. But you can rearrange so that you say that in the next 50 or so years, in the next half century, developing countries will have bigger problems. So you can see I have rearranged, beginning with the time frame, then went to the third world countries before I tackled the elephant in the room, and that is the tougher times. So paraphrase is the safest way of introducing your essay. I have not said that it is wrong to sample the points. It is okay to sample the points, but don't give so much details while sampling the points. Let's do an example so that you get to understand why I want you to shift. If you've been sampling points, I would like you to shift to paraphrase. I have already done an example where I rearranged these and changed the keywords somehow in order to say the same thing, but in my own words. So I had said, in the next half century, developing countries will have bigger challenges. Remember, while we were reading that question, we said the question wants us to look at tougher times, so we'll look at bigger challenges, deeper challenges. The connection was that of comparison. It is bad now, but it will be worse in the next 50 years. So you can see that without really complicating the question, I have come up with an introduction. And it's not just a mere substitution of developing countries and third world countries. No, it is connection. You connect. How have you understood the question? Then you avoid the key terms that I have underlined. But supposing another candidate now gives additional information here and samples a point. During that revelation, Montano tells us that he saw a future where the rate of crimes had gone higher and people were being slaughtered like chickens. Many were taking law into their hands. So we can say that in the next half century, developing countries will have bigger challenges. Montano finds that crime rates had gone higher, so that people were being slaughtered like chickens. First of all, that introduction has gone too long. You only need 3 pages to do a good essay. So if you make it longer, you are eating into that space. So Montano finds that crime rates is the challenge, had gone higher. That is the comparison. Now there are high crime rates. They have gone higher so that people were being slaughtered like chickens. You see, already giving details about those crime rates. So this additional information, an examiner can easily decide that you have discussed a point and even given us a detail here and deny you the full range of marks, give you a 0. Perfection is the answer to this problem where rules keep changing. It is the #1 reason why On Your Marks has come up with these books, so that you can achieve a perfection that NEC cannot undo. Even if rules are adjusted, goalposts are shifted, you cannot be affected if you are a perfect candidate. If you've been practicing essay writing to a level where you are perfect, not 100%, but A+. Yes. So I will withdraw this part and frame it differently. And this will be guided by our next point about how to deal with the introduction. What are some of the guidelines you need to follow while doing a good introduction, a perfect introduction? Mention the character the question demands you to. We say that NEC already ran away from questions that are so divergent, so diverse. Their scope is wide. NEC no longer sets such questions. NEC gives you proper guidelines in such a way that you know which character you will talk about, or you know which episode you must talk about. It mentions, NEC questions mention that character, mention that episode. Last year, it was Professor Kimani. The other year, it was Teacher Nicole. So supposing this is the question you have encountered this year in the exam room. I'm not saying that it is the one, please don't go quoting me. I am a nobody, I can't leak anything. So Montano has been given to us, and not just Montano, but his revelation when he travels into the future. We know Montano takes us through that, his travel into the future on stage while introducing the Samaritan alongside Alvita and their teacher, Nicole. When he travels into the future, the Maracas' future is bleak. Things are going to worsen. It will be total chaos. It will be challenging. The cost of living will have gone up. Life expectancy will have dropped, and many other things that Montano shows us. In order to make this statement allude to the text that we want to talk about, we'll bring in Montano. Mention the character. We'll bring in Montano as our character. And we say that, so let us connect, let us read that part, then connect. In the next half century, developing countries will have bigger challenges as seen in Montano's travel into the future. Another thing that we have already done subconsciously while we were interpreting that question, we have made the connection. Remember, I almost wrote big here and quickly changed to bigger because the question demanded us to do a comparison of now and the future. Now there's a problem. In future, there will be bigger problems. So that one has already been achieved. Not all connections are comparison related, no. Some connections, in fact, most connections are cause effect. Your actions lead to a certain reaction from people, from the environment, from, actions lead to some reactions. That is cause-effect relationship. Some questions are like that. Then, the last bit is be brief and to the point. Be brief, direct, to the point in the introduction. Economy of language. We don't want you to use so much space to introduce your essay. So guys, in a nutshell, what am I saying? That in your introduction, first of all, demonstrate that you have understood the question. Show us that you have understood the question. Don't introduce your essay. That introduction is not for the essay. The introduction is for the 2 marks that examiners want to give you. Show us that you have understood the question. Then mention the character the question has demanded you to. If it is not a character, it will be an episode. Mention that episode consciously. Make the connections while you are paraphrasing. Ensure that the connections are retained. I've said there could be connections of cause effect and they are common. You do something bad, you are punished. You do something good, you are rewarded. Cause effect relationship. Then I must have forgotten to emphasize the moral sense. Paper 3 is about morality I have said that again and again, and I'll not get tired to repeat that paper 3 is about morality. If you don't, if you write as though you are immoral, you'll be penalized by an automatic deduction. Then be brief to the point. So what I want us to do is try another question. Still in the Samaritan. Let's look at another question in the Samaritan. So that if you were a candidate last year with your Samaritan, it will be that Alvita and Montano's, the equivalent of last year's question in the Samaritan is Alvita and Montano's insecurities are evidence of poor leadership in Maracas municipality. So if we had an equivalent of last year's question and not talk about Teacher Nicole, not peg on Teacher Nicole because we have handled Teacher Nicole before, that is in 2024, then this would be it. Alvita and Montano's insecurities are evidence of poor leadership in Maracas municipality. And I had said in that highlight that this question simply means that if leaders engage in corruption, it's not just the adults that suffer. Even children, school-going children, do suffer. In this question, if we were to use our guidelines here in order to understand it well, know exactly what is expected of us, then we'll see that the subject is Alvita and Montano's insecurities. That is what the question is about. We'll look for those insecurities and they will be our departure point. So the question you need to ask yourself, what are Alvita's and Montano's insecurities? Let us demonstrate that we have understood the question by digesting it, by looking at it, by reading it keenly. Our subject, we've said, is Alvita and Montano's insecurity. In fact, it is their insecurities that we want to talk about. That is our subject. We've marked our subject. Then the connection is that insecurity is now the cause-effect relationship. There's a cause, then there's the effect. So the effect is the insecurity now. The effect is the insecurity, then the cause is the poor leadership. Poor leadership. The actions of Maracas municipality leaders bring insecurity among children, and in this case, Alvita and Montano. Cause, effect. So, there's poor leadership, which brings insecurity. But we are going to narrow that insecurity to Alvita and Montano. Among our details, we are going to have now the element of suffering. Suffering. As a result of all these, we must bring in. So the details that we will be giving must show that these two children suffer. Questions that handle negativity. Questions that handle negativity bring suffering, pain and suffering. So there must be a theme. We say that themes are handled incognito. You will not consciously tackle a theme. Questions that are positive, like we saw last year in the other year, in 2024, while talking about Nicole. She was determined, there was positivity in her. They ended with success. Success. So, suffering versus success, especially in questions that have a cause and effect relationship. Let me come again on this. The question has told us to talk about Alvita and Montano's insecurities. Then it has told us to show that that insecurity is as a result of poor leadership. Because the leaders are bad and they are causing harm to the children, then the children will suffer. So all questions that have somebody doing something wrong, something bad to others, must be discussed to the point where the others suffer. The suffering of those others must be highlighted. Then, questions that tackle characters positively must be discussed to the point where there is success because of that positivity. Hence, we said paper 3 is about morality. Good deeds rewarded. Success. Bad deeds punished. The suffering. We've broken down the question. It is the poor leadership that brings insecurity among the children, and they suffer a lot for that. What evidence do we have? We must prove in our introduction that we'll handle that question very well. So, we have tackled the moral sense as well when we brought in the suffering, so that we are not condoning poor leadership. Our tone should be that which admonishes bad leadership. Let us look at a paraphrase, a possible paraphrase for this. Let's look at a paraphrase. And a paraphrase, we said, in your own words. In your own words. In fact, don't use my words here. In the comment section, don't use my words. You can attempt an introduction. In your own words, there can be as many introductions as there are candidates. We don't expect that your introductions are similar. Alvita and Montano's insecurities are evidence of poor leadership in Maracas municipality. So here are the keywords that we shall not repeat. Alvita and Montano, we can repeat, but insecurities cannot be repeated. Then poor leadership cannot be repeated. But Maracas municipality is a proper noun. We cannot come up with any other. So poor leadership, insecurity, you need to understand what those terms are, and without defining them, without giving us the definition, without repeating them, we say it in our own words what we understand by them. In my own words, I will say the bad governance in Maracas municipality makes Alvita and Montano fearful. Makes Alvita and Montano fearful. It's the bad leadership that makes Alvita and Montano fear for their lives, for the life of Teacher Nicole. They become worrisome. So already in that introduction, it's just one line, one sentence, but we have mentioned the characters, that is Alvita and Montano, and even the place we are, the setting, that is in Maracas municipality. Then we have the connection, which is a cause-effect relationship, and them being fearful by extension just highlights the fact that the children are suffering. The children are suffering. We'll be giving the details of the suffering as we tackle the question. Then the moral sense is there, that when leaders are bad, all the citizens suffer, including young children as young as school going, and that is Alvita and Montano. So the moral sense has already been made. So that is a good introduction full. The take home in this exercise today is that when you are doing your introduction, do it perfectly. Don't leave anything to chance. Demonstrate that you have understood the question. Show that you know what your assignment is. Show that you will do a good job. That is a good introduction. Thanks for watching and being with me. If you have any questions, drop them in the comment section.